Hello, everyone. This is your 5-minute warning. This is also a sound check to make sure that volume is up, your speakers are working. Hope all is well with you today. Again, this is your 5-minute warning for our webinar. Thank you. This is your 1-minute warning. This webinar will begin in 1 minute. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rotor Consulting's webinar on project negotiation. My name is Christina Reed. I am the Assistant to the President here at Rotor Consulting and your host for today's webinar. Happy New Year to everyone. We are very excited to be launching the new webinar for 2012. In a few moments, I will introduce you to Mr. Trey Rotor, President and Founder of Rotor Consulting, and today's webinar speaker. But before I begin, I have a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to share with you. For those of you returning back to our webinars, welcome back. You're in for a special treat, and everything as far as the housekeeping items are pretty self-explanatory. And for those of you brand new, welcome. We thank you for joining us today. We have approximately 700 people registered for this webinar, and how we will be interacting with one another is through the Q&A panel, as the majority of you have been sending me messages throughout this morning. So it is over to the right of the screen, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them with us, along with where you're from. This is a global webinar, and we'd love to address any and all of you in all of the different countries and places that are represented today. Should WebEx, for whatever reason, decide to be, I don't know, crazy or crash or something, please feel free to contact WebEx. The two phone numbers are on your screen, and the event number, 799-992-940, is the event number. As always, you will be able to download your free 1PDU form at the end of this webinar, along with the webinar presentation, as well as tips on, or instructions on how to claim PDUs. As always, this is a global webinar. We are proud to be broadcasting on 6 different continents from 38 different countries, and there were, at last count, 740 participants. Again, we thank all of you for your support, and we do hope that you have a great webinar today. Now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Trey Rotor. Mr. Rotor is a PMP and is the president and founder of Rotor Consulting. Years ago, he successfully managed the largest plant retooling project in the history of a major printing company, enabling the company to enter a new market and secure $100 million in revenue. In 2001, after serving as a consultant with Booz Allen Hamilton, he founded Rotor Consulting, a respected project management and consulting training firm. Mr. Rotor is recognized as a global expert on project management. He regularly speaks at global project management events, including the Project Management Global Congresses, where he once received the coveted encore presentation. He has been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, MSN Money, Microsoft Press, the Project Management Institute, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer, to name a few. In 2011, on the 10th anniversary of Rotor Consulting, Mr. Rotor released his best-selling book, A Sixth Sense for Project Management. In his book, Mr. Rotor details how to achieve project success by deploying a balanced approach with a particular emphasis on people. Mr. Rotor and his family currently reside in Cleveland, Ohio, where he is a member of the Northeast Ohio chapter of the Project Management Institute. He holds a BA in Economics from the University of Illinois and an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. So without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Trey Rotor.
Thank you, Christina, and thanks to each of you for joining us today on this global webinar. If you've been with us before, welcome back. It's great to see you. If this is your first time on a Rotor Consulting webinar, I'd like to personally welcome you. We hope to see you every month. Usually the first or second Tuesday of the month, we do these free webinars on topics related to project management. Today we're going to talk about negotiation, a skill that's clearly important to all of us as project managers. Before we get into this session, I would like to notify you of a change and welcome our sponsor. Rotor Consulting's webinars have hit a chord in the project management community. They've become very popular, and we feel blessed by that. As a result of it, however, the cost of these webinars continue to increase with the live streaming video, the audio that goes to any place in the world that has access to the internet, and the various production costs. It's very important to us to keep these webinars free. When someone from Rotor Consulting goes out to the community, one of the common things we hear is, we like the webinar, I saw that one on the weather, or the guest speaker you had in October was really great. And they've initiated a conversation, a discussion in the community that we think is very exciting and that we'd like to see continue. So in 2012, as a way to keep our webinars free, yet also help cover the costs of the production of these webinars, we have decided to take sponsors. This month's webinar is sponsored by Twin Suns. If your company has several locations, your project management challenges are multiplied. You've considered cloud-based solutions, but where do you start? Twin Suns are the experts in cloud workflow app development. Using QuickBase, the most reliable online data manager, Twin Suns delivers highly effective business solutions to Fortune 100 companies and startups alike. And solutions are in place in days or weeks, not in months. For all your cloud-based solutions, put your trust in Twin Suns, and you can reach them at the phone number on your screen here, 720-209-3385, or at their website, twinsunsolutions.com. If you happen to get through to Rich Crum, the president of the company, let him know that you found out about him through the Rotor Consulting webinar. I encourage you to go to their website. You'll see a link to them at the end of this webinar when you go to the page to claim your PDU. And I thank Twin Suns for being our first sponsor and for helping us continue to deliver this service to the project management community. The December 2011 issue of Project Management Network featured an article called The Power of Persuasion. Rotor Consulting was deeply honored to be cited in that article. Our 6 disciplines that cover a 6th sense for project management were mentioned in this article, and I was also personally quoted. We're very happy that the Project Management Institute has recognized what you already know, the importance of the human side of change and the importance of people skills in managing change projects. It also brings us satisfaction to see the Project Management Institute, as well as other influential organizations in our community, recognizing that negotiation is one of the most important skills we need as project managers. This is a special edition webinar. We're doing things a little bit differently today. What makes this special is we are going to spend a lot of time hearing from you. We've had several discussions going on our LinkedIn group in the last month, and you have told us how to negotiate stress and some stories on successful negotiations that you have had. So throughout our hour today, I will share with you your stories. Rotor Consulting's LinkedIn group is the #1 community for project management online training, and one of the top 10 communities for project management training overall. If you're interested in any of these comments that you see today, and if you would like to add your thoughts and your contributions to the conversation, we'd love to see that. Simply go to LinkedIn, find the Rotor Consulting group, join us, and then become a part of the ongoing conversation. We have, in 2012, a half-dozen brand new courses that we're releasing. These courses have come from your requests. As we talk to PMI chapter leaders, as we talk to each of you individually, our corporate clients that we work with, we have found that there are a number of topics that are very important right now and that they would like to know more about. One of those topics is what we're covering today, negotiation. We have a brand new negotiation course that's launching later this month. This is a 15 PDU course. So if you take it in person, it will be a 2-day program. And if you take it online, starting on January 27th, there will be 3 4-hour increments on consecutive Fridays. The 3 4-hour increments, of course, make up 12 hours. The remaining 3 hours to get your 15 PDUs come from work between classes. Rotor Consulting has a relationship with the Kellogg Graduate School of Management. In this relationship, we are able to bring case studies to our classroom that are exactly the same as the case studies Kellogg uses in their classroom in Evanston, Illinois, as well as in their satellite locations across the world. For the negotiations course, we have selected a brand new case study called Aussie Air. This case was just authored in 2011. From within the first 30 minutes of when you walk in the door or log in if you take this course online, you will be assigned a role in the Aussie Air case. You will then play that role throughout the course of the program. Occasionally, we will take breaks in your discussions and meetings and negotiations to talk about learning modules and things that are going on in terms of building alliances, resisting power plays, and so on. We're very excited about it. We hope you will consider joining us for the Project Management Negotiation Program. And there's no better time to do that than right now. We know the economy is tough. Unemployment went from 9% down to 8.5% recently, yet 8.5% is still a very high number. And we know that many of you are financially strapped in terms of personal funds, and also your organizations have difficulty coming up with the training budget they need to. We are offering a special promotion, and we don't do promotions often here at Rotor Consulting. However, for January, we've decided to offer a special promotion where if you sign up for one of our in-person programs or any of the live instructor-led online programs, you will receive a 50% discount off of any of our 3 online on-demand programs. This will happen automatically in the registration process. You do not need a discount code. Our online on-demand programs you see at the bottom of the screen here. Project Management Fundamentals is a brand new course. We just launched that within the last several months. 360-degree awareness is our most popular online on-demand course. It is completely redone. We just released it this morning. About 2 hours ago, our Director of Operations hit the switch and put this new course over. It's on a brand new state-of-the-art learning platform. It incorporates the latest from the scientific community on awareness, and it ties it into project management. The Whole Body Decisions on-demand course is also completely redone and was just put up on our website yesterday. PM Fundamentals is 8 PDUs. 360-degree awareness is now an 8 PDU program. It was previously 4. And Whole Body Decisions is a 4 PDU program. Again, available for half off in the month of January if you also sign up for one of our in-person programs or online live instructor-led programs. Well, we know that projects are an ongoing negotiation. We are constantly having stakeholders come to us and say things like, can you add this to the scope? Can you do this for me faster? I can't do this for you. A fill in the blank came up. You have heard it all for that fill in the blank, for reasons, excuses, obstacles why people can't do what you are asking them to do. You find yourself all the time in situations where people are coming to you with changes and with things that you need to negotiate. In response, as you know, one of our mantras here at Rotor Consulting is when things change, when we're asked to do something difficult, the answer is not to say no. Our best answer is to say, yes, I can do that, but here's the consequences. I can do that if you give me more budget. I can do that if you give me additional resources. I can do that if you give me more time. And you're probably tempted in many cases to say, I can do that, but I need a vacation. Give me a break from all of this craziness. Let's go to our LinkedIn group now and begin sharing some of those comments. The most popular discussion thread on our LinkedIn group in the last month was on stress. Do you have stress in the project environment? How do you negotiate that stress? And interestingly, as people responded to stress, they talked about a lot of difficult situations they had with other people, with the project, with the scope, and that created stress for them, and how to deal with that, which is no different than the discussion we're having on negotiation. So let's start with Keith. Keith says to handle stress, you should exercise, step away for a few minutes. This was a common theme. Many of you said, back off. And there's a lot of science behind this. It's a great idea to back off, give yourself and the other party a chance to cool down before re-engaging. And do not respond immediately, Keith said. Now, Greg replied to that thread and he said, exercise is a great idea, but not just ad hoc exercise. You have to have a goal, such as the Boston Marathon. So, project manager friends, get out your running shoes. It's time to train for that marathon and burn off stress. One of my favorite quotes comes from Margaret Mead. We have right here on our main conference room table this, which came from one of our clients. At the end of a successful project, a client gave this to me. Everyone thought this was supposed to balance, but apparently it doesn't balance. One person broke trying it. Well, right here on this is the Margaret Mead quote that you see on your screen. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That's what you do for a living. You are a project manager or a business analyst or an executive leading probably a team of people that's charged with doing something that's going to be different. And don't doubt that you can do tremendous things, because that's how the tremendous things in our history have been done. However, that ongoing work within your group requires constant negotiations. And the ongoing work that your group or team has with the external world is also an ongoing negotiation. Here's what Fred has to say about this on the Rotor Consulting LinkedIn group. Negotiating for project resources is always a challenge. Does this sound familiar? He goes on to say, I approach this by building strong working relationships with functional managers and individual contributors. Thank you, Fred. I'd like to share with you a story from my book, A Sixth Sense for Project Management. This is a story of a negotiation, and it goes back to the year 2000. I'm working for one of the big three automobile manufacturers. We have a consulting team on the ground of about 40 consultants, and our goal is to help this automobile manufacturer turn things around. We've determined that one of the keys to helping this organization turn things around is to lower the advertising budget. Somehow I drew the short straw and was asked to be the person who had to go to the director of advertising and let him know that we were not only lowering the budget, but that we needed his enthusiastic support and agreement. I walked into the director's office. We sat down. He sat across from me with another gentleman who reported to him in the advertising group, and we began the conversation with some pleasantries. And then, several minutes into the conversation, he looked at me, got a serious look on his face, and said something to the order of, so, you want to cut my advertising budget? To which I replied, our job is to help this organization turn around. Our analysis has showed us that the advertising budget is going to need to be lower in order for us to be successful and your organization to be successful and an ongoing viable enterprise in the future. What proceeded over the next hour was a conversation, sometimes emotional, sometimes based on the facts, sometimes political, about how to do this. At the end of the hour, we had a common understanding. We had negotiated common ground. And what we had negotiated was that, first, the advertising budget was going to need to be cut. The director acknowledged that there were some areas in the budget that he felt didn't need to be as large as they were, and he also recognized that he had to be a team player in order to help this organization turn things around. From my standpoint, I conceded that the budget cut might not need to be as deep as what our consulting team had initially come up with. Finding that common ground is a very important first step in negotiation, as well as working together. Now, the term negotiation often gets used in an adversarial way. When we think of negotiations, we often think of butting heads and clashing. When I started researching our new negotiation course months ago, and when I continued the research for this webinar, I was fascinated to find that the dictionary definition of negotiation is the reaching of agreement through discussion and compromise. And synonyms of negotiation are words such as cooperation, compromise, concession, and diplomacy. That's what negotiation is. Now you're sitting there saying, yeah, but that's not the way it goes down in a lot of cases in my organization. You might have experienced something where someone tells you what is going to happen. The boss says, I'm the boss. This is the way we're going to do it. Well, that, my friends, is not a negotiation. That's what we call a power play. It happens all the time. Why is it important to know the difference between a negotiation and a power play? Because if you are the victim of a power play, it doesn't matter how many books you've read on negotiation, you may not be able to do anything about it. Now, you might be able to turn that power play into a situation where you can negotiate. That's a topic we talk about more in the course. However, if you find yourself in a position where someone's just saying this is how it needs to be done, don't feel like you're doing anything wrong if you can't impact that. We know that we as project managers are not always at the top of the chart when it comes to power. Now, here's a slide that you might be interested in. This is a slide that has become part of the regular Rotor Consulting Roadshow over the last year or so. And it comes from you. So I thank you for those of you who are a part of this research. We asked the question in these webinars, in 3 webinars, we asked the question, how many people report directly to you? Now, this goes back to the fall of 2010 when we asked the project management community this question. And what we found based on this survey result is that fully 76% of us as a project management community do not have anyone reporting directly to us. In other words, when it comes to negotiation, we often are not in a position where we can use the power play. And in addition to that, we are often at the receiving end of the power play that happens. And that creates stress. Let's go back to your comments. Peter has found that if you find yourself in a contractor situation, notifying the client you will take some time to analyze all the components of the situation usually works. Peter's coming back to this common theme of backing off, letting him know, give me some time to think about it, and he's found that most people are reasonable. Trish recommends taking a break, even if it's just 5 minutes to clear your head. This is something we do here at Rotor Consulting. Sometimes we'll go for a walk outside to clear our heads. Sometimes we'll even have meetings while walking. This can be a very powerful way to step away from the situation and clear your mind. Chopin came up with a very interesting philosophy for negotiating. He calls it negotiate by following. Chopin says, I've discovered that negotiation does not happen only when you have to resolve a problem. Excellent point. Thank you. He goes on to say, it is also a skill you need to use to thread through complex project communication. In one of my projects, I have learned to negotiate by following. And he goes on to describe what he means. He says, when you negotiate by following, it's easy to understand what the other party exactly needs, and then you can commit just only to what the other party requires. This is an awareness. This is a tuning in to what that other person wants, and only going as far as you have to deliver against that. We also asked for stories of negotiation success. Rhonda shared with us the following story. While trying to fast-track project startup, scope, and work planning, we quickly learned that all deliverables could not be complete within the timeline. Has this ever happened to you? The executive team or the board of directors or some other group has come up with a project timeline, and then it gets handed off to you. And you quickly look at it and realize, oh, if only. Think of all the extra resources I need and budget I need to make this happen. So what Rhonda found success with is instead of focusing on excuses, again, coming back to this mantra, don't say no, but say, yes, I can do it, but here's how. Instead of focusing on excuses for why the work couldn't be completed on the original timeline, we were able to get agreement on the highest priority deliverables. Another marker of great negotiators, not trying to negotiate everything, but narrowing it down to those key drivers that you need to be successful for your project and focusing your negotiation firepower on those several issues. In a couple moments here, we are going to be pausing for questions. So if you have any questions or comments that you would like to share, I encourage you to go to the Q&A panel and begin typing those in now. And as you think about some of the questions and comments that you might have, I'd like to go back and make a few more comments on this idea of the ability to get agreement over focusing on the highest priority deliverables. What we're finding is that in the project environment, there are a lot of different moving pieces. There are a lot of different things going on. And what we're also finding is that more and more of you are handling more projects. As organizations downsize, as organizations become more efficient, as organizations want to do more to remain competitive, we find that many of us get more projects. What this means for us to be successful is that we need to have the ability to look at the scope of everything that we're doing within our project or across our portfolio of projects and select those things that are going to be most impactful. Now, as project managers, when we look at the timeline, we have a term for this, the critical path. Think about the critical path beyond just your timeline. What is the critical decision or the critical area that you need negotiation on across your overall project? Christina, do we have any questions or comments at this point?
Oh, yes, as always. Susan asked, how does resilience enhance risk management and project success?
How does resilience enhance risk management and project success? Well, when you say the word resilience, Susan, where my mind goes is to the 6 disciplines of Rotor Consulting, and number 6 is persistence. So resilience is the ability to come back in the face of pressure, continue to come back with a smile, and continue to come back with some answers. We have found that that is a very important skill for negotiators, in particular, patience. One of the tricks that some people might deploy against you is they will remain silent or they will show support until your project is almost complete, and then at that point they may feel like, because the project's definitely going to happen and you have so much momentum, they can throw in whatever it is that they want to get added. So we need to be ready for that, and we need to have the resilience to be able to say at that point in time, well, here's where we're going with the project, and you may choose to negotiate or you may choose not to. Very important. Thank you for the question, Susan.
Stephanie says, this may be a trivial point, but Trey often says yes, but. I have often found that the simple word and is better than but. So say yes and, it keeps people involved instead of tuning out the moment when they hear the word but.
That's a fair point. Thank you. There was a book written some years ago, perhaps a Dale Carnegie book. You may know which one it is. If you do, send us a note on chat and we'll share it with everyone, that said one of the words that should be taken out of our vocabulary is the word but, because it puts people back on their heels. I would say it depends on who you are, it depends on your culture and your situation, but I think that's a fair point. Thank you.
Rhonda asks, it seems that to be effective as a negotiator, you need to know what's important to the other party. What's the best way to discover their top desires?
Great point. Knowing what's important to the other party is critical to negotiations. The way that you do that is through your awareness. It's not a simple answer. We created an 8-hour course on that, which could end up being really a lifelong mission. It comes to understanding ourselves, because oftentimes we learn about other people by how we react to them. We can't look into their minds, but we can understand how we feel when they're saying certain things or doing certain things. So it starts with self-awareness, and then awareness of those others, and awareness of the situation around them. It's a lifelong pursuit, but something that's of critical importance, not only to negotiation, but what we have found here at Rotor Consulting is that awareness is the foundational skill of not only a sixth sense for project management, but of project success. Thanks, Rhonda.
How about this? Tanisha writes, how do you negotiate with a stakeholder who is not open to compromise and wants the project handled his or her way?
Yeah, so Tanisha, what you might be dealing with there is what we call a power play. If you're in a power play situation, the trick is to get it from a power play into a negotiation. If you can get it into a negotiation where the person is giving you some daylight to look at things differently, then you can deploy all the tools we're talking about here. If you can't get it into the negotiation, then there may be very few things that you can do. And again, we're a real-world firm here. We're out there every day managing projects as well. And I know I've been in situations where I've been unable to change someone's mind, at least in the short term. What you might find yourself going to is a midterm or longer-term strategy. If today they're forcing for a certain thing, you might have to accept that, but then over time, that person will realize that their idea or their concept didn't end up having the right answer. Why don't we push on here? Let's go back to the topic of negotiating stress. Here's a comment from Luis Fernando. Luis Fernando says, when dealing with stress, number one, smile sincerely. A fake smile is a challenging smile. I'd like to pause here for a moment and ask you, not just Luis Fernando, but all of you who are with us today, how do you tell the difference between a sincere smile and a fake smile? I'm sure we've all been in situations where someone in our project is giving us that fake smile, or this, of course, transcends project management. This is a human experience. So how do you tell the difference between a fake smile and a real smile? Share with us your thoughts. While you're doing that, I'll read to you the rest of Luis Fernando's recommendations. Number two, he says, be careful with the silence, which can be a powerful tool, but can also be taken as challenging. We saw this a number of times as well in your comments, this topic of silence, the use of silence. And it's particularly interesting how Luis Fernando points out that it could be seen as a challenge. He goes on in his post to recommend that you let others know if there's going to be silence, to try to diffuse that uncomfort before it gets too bad. And number three, he says, be positive. Repeat and repeat again about the positive side of the situation. Let's go back to this number one. We're talking about negotiation. And one of the important skills that we need to have in negotiation, as was pointed out in this question session, is awareness, is understanding of other people's motives, understanding of what they're telling us and if it's sincere or not. So how can we tell the difference between a real or a fake smile? One of the things that we do here at Rotor Consulting is that we bring science to what's happening in the human side of projects as well as the project management overall. It turns out that there is scientific research that's been done on real and fake smiles. But first, let's see how good you are. We're going to open up a poll now on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'd like you to look at this woman here in the picture. This is your team meeting, and in the front there's a woman smiling. Is she giving you a real smile or a fake smile? On the right-hand side of your screen, you should now see the polling screen open, and I'd like to ask you to simply select real or fake. As you look at this woman here, what is the feeling that you get from this smile? These polls are going to be open for 30 seconds. Once the poll closes, it takes the WebEx platform about 20 seconds to summarize the results, and Christina will write them down. She will share with us in several minutes what the results are. As soon as this poll has closed and I get the green light, which it looks like we have, we will move on to the next person. Is this a real smile or a fake smile? As you look at this, I'd like to point out something fascinating that's come out of the research of how people smile. What the research has found is that a smile is a smile across cultures, across generations, across a variety of different backgrounds. A real smile looks the same. However, what's fascinating is that the meaning of that smile can be very different depending on cultural and other orientation. For example, in American culture, we tend to look at the smile as something that's affirming, that's positive, that shows support. If you look at, for example, the Russian culture, smiling is less common, and they may tend to think that Americans smile too much. If you look at other cultures, in particular, this has been found in some of the tribal cultures that have been less touched by Western or Eastern culture, a smile can often be used at the end of a sad story. So even though a smile, a real smile, looks similar across cultures, the meaning of that smile can be very different. This is a fascinating topic that our team has dove into for our international project management course. That's another one of our new courses coming out for this year. And we've had some very interesting conversations on the difference between stereotyping and cultural differences and so on. But you are telling us as a community that you're dealing with this more and more in your projects as our work becomes more global. Let's go on to number 3. Here's a fine-looking gentleman. Tell me if you think this is a real smile or a fake smile. This photograph actually is from the photo shoot that we did for my book, which ended up being about 150 different pictures. I had no idea it took that long to get a photograph for a book cover. But as I went back through and looked through them, some of them look like pretty sincere smiles, and in other cases, I just look tired. So let me know what you think about this picture here. Is this a real smile or a fake smile? And this poll should be closing out here shortly, and we are tabulating the results. I see that happening across the table now. Are we ready to go here?
Not quite yet. We still have about 6 seconds left.
All right.
4, 3,
You're smiling. You must have gotten a good comment.
This is quite interesting. I mean, just around, I am really, really surprised at these results, and I think everyone will be as well. Okay, we are ready.
Excellent. We are going to give you the answer, by the way. We have one last one here for you. This smile, is this a real smile or a fake smile? This is the 4th of 4 that we're going to go through. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about each of these photographs, and I will share with you the science of the difference between a real smile and a fake smile. In fact, I forgot, we do have one more photograph. The remaining photograph is, in fact, of the professor who is widely credited for inventing, if you will, the science behind how to tell the difference between a real smile or a fake smile. So we are probably pretty close to our time limit here. I see some notes being taken, and do we have the green light?
7
more seconds.
7 seconds, yep.
7 seconds more, all right, and then we'll go to the last photograph, and then we will talk about it. Am I good to go here?
Yes, you are.
Super. All right, here is this fellow. Now, we've given you a third option. The poll is opening up. We've given you a third option. Is this a real smile? Is this a fake smile? Or is this not a smile at all? Is this guy just doing something other than smiling at the camera? While you reflect on that, let me tell you who you're looking at here. This is Mr. Duchenne, D-U-C-H-E-N-N-E. And he was a scientist, a researcher, and he came up with what has come to be known as the Duchenne smile, which is a real smile. And he took a look at the different muscle groups that are engaged in a real smile versus a fake smile. And his work has been very influential, and it's been cited in many other 20th century and 21st century developments and citations and research projects on the interpersonal side of dealing with people and how to read human behavior. So what do you think about this guy here? Is this real or fake or not a smile at all? All right, now in this one, Christina, we're going to read the results right as soon as they come out. So what do people tell us about this fellow?
This fellow, okay, 9% believe that that is a real smile.
Smart, you're smart.
7% say that it's a fake smile.
Yeah.
54% say it's not a smile.
That's my answer too. When I look at this photograph, I say, this is not a smile. And this is a guy who told the world how to tell the difference between a real smile and a fake one. Wouldn't you think that for his photograph, he'd at least give us a real smile? All right, well, here's what Mr. Duchene told us. All right, what did we get? What are the survey results here on photograph number 1?
I think I was a little trigger happy and not everyone was able to answer this, but 5% said that this was a real smile, 20% said that it was a fake smile, and 75% were unable to respond.
Okay, this one is a fake smile. So the group got that right. Let's go now to each of these.
Okay.
The woman on the left, what did we get for her?
66% say that that was a real smile. 2% say that it's fake, and then 32 did not respond.
This indeed is a real smile. All right. This next photograph, what did we get here?
Now this is why I was kind of laughing. 35% said that this was a real smile.
Yeah.
29% said that it was a fake smile.
Yeah.
And then 36% did not respond.
I figured that's why you're laughing, that people thought this was fake. This is a real smile as well. I'll tell you in a moment. And the last person here, what did the survey tell us?
32% say that it is a real smile.
Yeah.
39% say that it's fake, and then 29 were not able to respond.
Excellent. This is a fake smile. Let's go first to the group's comments. What did people tell us they use as the indicators on telling the difference between a real smile and a fake smile?
I was quite surprised. The first, I'm telling you, 10 people said you can see it through their eyes. If it's a real or fake smile, you can see it through their eyes. A real smile takes up the whole face. A fake smile is just the upturn of lips. Face-to-face, no, hold on, that wasn't right. Let me see. Someone who is giving you a fake smile does not make direct eye contact. A real smile encompasses the whole body and not just the face.
Okay.
Let's see. The eyes tell it all. You can see it through their eyes. Smile involves the whole face, including eyes. Let me see what the Q&A has. It goes back to a person's eyes, in all honesty. Everyone says you can see it through their eyes. Sincere is the entire facial involvement. Fake is the mouth only.
Wonderful. Okay. You're on the right track here. Here's what Mr. Duchene told us, that a real smile involves the zygomatic major muscle, which raises the corners of the mouth, and the orbicularis oculi muscle, which raises the cheeks and also creates a crinkling and crow's feet around the eyes. So a fake smile is someone who's only using that zygomatic major muscle, raising the corners of the mouth. That's something that we can do. In this photograph here, you see that this woman has raised the corners of her mouth, but there's no evidence that her cheeks have been raised. You don't see any of the crinkling around her eyes. As you look at this next photograph on the left here, well, this woman is lit up. And it's not surprising to me at all that the vast majority of the group identified this as a real smile. You just feel it, you see it. The mouth is raised, but you also see the cheeks are involved, and you see the crinkling around her eyes, which is similar to what you see in the middle photograph as well. You see the cheeks are compressed and raised, and there's crinkling around the eyes. And this photograph on the right, although what many might consider a pleasant smile, it's just mouth. It's just corners of mouth. And we don't see here cheeks involved, There's no evidence that the cheeks are raised, and we don't see any crinkling around the eyes. As I researched this, one of the questions I asked myself was, okay, what about children? You know, they talk about crow's feet being apparent when someone smiles. Kids don't have crow's feet. Well, there's a wonderful photograph, and I think we might have time at the end of the webinar here that I will share with you, of what appears to be a father and son. And you can see in the child a slight indent here, because when you raise the cheek, there's no place for the skin here, and it creates the indentation. Real versus fake smiles. Important to understanding the people we're talking to and negotiation. Let's go back to stress, and let's go back to your comments from the Rotor Consulting LinkedIn group. Carrie says, I've worked with and had to listen to many difficult people over the years. Carrie, you're not alone. She goes on to say, I remind myself that every single person wants to be heard, so I listen and try to understand their perspective. Linda says, I try to find humor in the situation, even if it's in my own mind. And Becky says, there are positives to be found in most difficult situations, if only we look. John provided a very nice 7-step process here on how to negotiate stress. He starts with taking a short walk. Of course, you recognize this as a common thread that's occurred in many of these discussions, whether it's exercise, walking, removing from the situation. He mentions silence. We've heard this frequently today. Make silence your tool. Use it to envision happiness and success. And now we're starting to get into these positive attributes. Breathe slowly. Get rid of your negative thoughts. Allow the pleasant, happy thoughts to come in. Think out a solution and work out a mutually agreed upon solution. One of the misnomers in project management is that you can become trained on a particular set of technical skills and then you know how to manage projects. And the experienced project managers consistently tell us in chat groups, in our discussions, and other discussions that we're involved with, that it's really about the people. And the balanced approach that Rotor Consulting supports, you see on the left-hand side of your screen, is about taking those technical skills, technical project management skills, such as creating a work breakdown structure and measuring earned value if you do that, and creating charters, and so on, and adding to that your business acumen and your sixth sense people skills, such as negotiation, which is what we're talking about today. There's no button on your computer that says negotiate. So if you like the technical skills, that's great. That's important. You need them. The research shows that we need some sort of technical grounding. However, we need a lot more than that in order to have successful project outcomes. Now, you might be asking, should I always negotiate? Is it always appropriate for me to negotiate? Well, let me share with you the following quote. And I'm going to send a free book to the first person who can tell me who this is from. So, Christina, keep an eye on that. And
Gosh.
the system actually tells us what time they came in. So the first person who gets this right, I'll send you a free book. So this person said, I have thought carefully in these last days whether it was part of my duty to consider entering negotiations with that man. So here is someone struggling with this very question, should I negotiate or not? I'm going to give you another hint here. For any aviation enthusiasts, you see an airplane now in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. This airplane was in use during the time when this quote was delivered. For those of you not familiar, this is a Boeing Stearman PT-17 airplane painted in the authentic Navy colors. It was around in the 30s and the 40s, 1930s and 1940s. Christina hasn't indicated we have the answer yet.
I don't know if we do or not.
Oh, okay.
But
I'll tell you in a moment. This quote was delivered in May 1940. May 1940 by the Prime Minister of Britain. Winston Churchill. Did anyone get that?
Yes. Oh, many people did.
Super.
Many people did.
All right. Winston Churchill delivered this to his cabinet of war. We know who that man was, the man who was taking over Europe, who was not open to intellectual ideas, who was an evil person, and the question was, should we negotiate with this person or not? When Winston Churchill presented this to his cabinet, he started with this, and he ended by saying, if this Long Island story of ours is to end at last, let it end only when each of us lies choking in his own blood upon the ground. I am not going to negotiate. So the answer is, it's not always right to negotiate. This decision here was seen as, by almost all, as not only right, but as heroic and principled, and you may encounter this in your projects as well. So this is not a Pollyanna program or message on always find a way to negotiate. Some of the most influential books, such as Getting to Yes on negotiation, submit a more rosy picture of how we can always figure out how to work together. And in most cases, I think that's a great approach. However, in some cases, working together is not what you want. Winston Churchill. Can't say it any better than him. We're going to go back to question and answer now. I'll take these for several minutes. I will share with you that photograph, this wonderful photograph of two people smiling, and then I'll hand over to Christina for the closing comments. What questions or comments do we have, Christina?
Let's see.
Many to choose from.
Many. Well, people are still giving comments.
And up there?
Exactly. And some audio problems.
By the way, in the audio problems, this is a known problem that WebEx had. A lot of problems with this a couple months ago. They translated over to a new system. We've had ongoing conversations with them, and we know it's still not perfect, but we're working with them on these audio problems. So I do apologize again for any of you who may be having audio problems.
We can go back to some of the questions given before. Asha asks, what if almost all of the highest priorities as a customer wants everything included in the first delivery? I guess this goes back to negotiating the highest priority instead of trying to negotiate the whole
Yeah,
thing.
so this comes back to the, I will now say yes and solution, which is that you could say, yes, we can do all of those things, and that means that I'll need a lot of resources and it's going to cost you more and it'll take more time. Now, I understand that response might not work in the real world because customers are entitled to say, hey, you got the budget, do within that budget, and you got this time, and make it all happen. However, part of our job as project managers, part of what we are paid to do is to help people understand the constraints and to help them understand what can be done within the given constraints that we have, and if they want more, how it's going to impact those constraints. So that's part of the negotiation, is clarifying to them, not because you don't want to do it, not because you don't feel like doing it, but some of the inherent constraints that you're seeing in your project. Thank you.
We have a comment, if I can find it, from Patricia. And she says, when stress is shared and unfortunately magnetized within a group, having a pizza lunch or bagel breakfast will hopefully get the group out of their funk.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. And this is, the topic that stress is shared is accurate, and this shows up in the research where what's happening with one person can influence the rest of the group for better or for worse. So the lessons here for us as project managers is if you do have one bad apple, that can sour the group. And second, if you as the project, how you act as a project manager, as a leader of that group, is likely to make an influence upon them. So I was commenting on that, and I lost track of the rest of the question. She had another point there. What was it, Christina?
This was the stress.
Yeah, from Patricia. It was a comment she was making. Is that right?
Yes. Let's see. Having a pizza lunch or bagel breakfast.
Thank you.
To get everyone out of the.
So I have nothing to add to that. Great idea to do things like that to break it up and support the team.
This is an interesting question that ties together the smiling aspect. Jeff writes, what should you do when you see that a person with whom you are negotiating with is fake smiling?
Well, it's good for us to know. I would put it into the database of awareness that this is a person who, we all fake smile sometimes. You know, there's a lot of situations in our work, in our lives that require us to be pleasant and polite, but we might not genuinely feel thrilled or happy about what's going on. So it might be benign, it might not be a big deal, or there might be more to it. So when I see a fake smile, I just put it into the memory bank and say, all right, good to know, note to self, let me see if there's anything more to it, let me see if it continues to happen. Great question, thank you, Jeff.
Mohan from LA, I believe it could be LA, California, or Louisiana, not 100% sure.
All right.
Asks, is negotiation an art or a technique or something beyond those?
Mohan, the answer is yes. There are techniques that can be deployed. There are techniques that other will deploy against you. There also certainly is an art to this because it's not an algorithm. What works in one situation might be the absolute wrong thing to do in another situation. So as you develop your negotiation, I encourage you not to be too beholden to one given approach or philosophy, because an approach or philosophy is going to give you a mindset that you're going to try to fit everything into. Instead, what I encourage you to do is to be aware of what's going on around you, to practice different skills that you can deploy depending on the situation, and now you're going to be a much more powerful negotiator. Let's take one more question. I'm going to show that picture, and then I'll hand off back to you, Christina, to tell people how to get their PDU form.
Okay, let's find another question.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to fast forward actually through the...
And actually, I think
Oh, is that gone?
Yeah, I think so, but give me a second.
Oh, okay.
And I can work with my magic, and...
Christina's going to work her magic. While she's doing that, she obviously can't read me another question. So I'm going to go through some closing comments here. Christina's going to show us that picture, and then she'll bring us home. We're at 3 minutes to the hour here.
Do you get the picture? It should be up. Yep. No, go one more tab.
One more tab.
Hold on. Go one.
There it is.
Yay!
Well done. That was magical.
I told you.
All right, look at this picture. I love this picture. These are clearly two genuine smiles. Look at the man on the left. Now you see, there's crow's feet for you. You can clearly see the eye engaged, the cheek up, the full face showing this smile. Now look at this young boy on the right, and you can see right here, if you can see that, there is a little dimple where he is smiling, a true smile where his cheek is raised, and it's causing this little dimple to be right here. So this photograph, I think, in a very powerful way can show the involvement of not only the zygomatic major muscle, which is raising the corners of the mouths, but also the orbicularis oculi muscle, which is involving the cheeks and the eyes. Fascinating stuff. Thanks so much. I've had a lot of fun today in our conversation, and I am going to make one more announcement about the upcoming course, and then I'll hand off to Christina, who will tell you about next month's webinar on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and tell you how to get your PDU form. The online course, Project Management Negotiation, talking about more of the things that we talked about today in more detail and giving you the opportunity in this real-life simulation to practice your negotiation skills. As cited in last month's version of PM Network, the online version, January 27th, and the in-person version debuts in Denver, and we have it in a variety of different markets. You can check the website for more details. Thanks so much for being with us today. I appreciate your time. I wish you all the best for project success.
Well, thank you, Trey. And as always, thank you for another amazing webinar. We have one more, just a reminder, our January BOGO promotion. If you buy any of our in-person and or online live courses, you will be able to receive one of our online on-demand courses at 50% off. If you enjoy our webinars, even just a little bit, I promise you that our online live courses are so much more interactive, and you actually get to engage in dialogue with the instructors as well as with the participants there as well. Our upcoming webinar is on Valentine's Day, and what better topic than love? Well, not really, but it's the love of international project management. So Stephen Hayward, Dr. Stephen Hayward, who is one of our amazing speakers, is going to be giving the webinar on That's Amore, Learning to Love International Project Management. So we will hopefully see you again next month, February 14th at 11 o'clock Eastern Time for this very unique webinar.
He does a great job. Always a lot of fun with Dr. Hayward.
That he does. And last but certainly not least, we thank you again for joining us today. The PDU form and this presentation is available on our website at rotorconsulting.com/postwebinar.php. You will also be receiving an email within the next 15 minutes with this link in case you need to get to other engagements. So again, we thank you very much for joining us today. Again, Happy New Year, and we hope to see you next month. Have a great day. Bye.